The real-world rule of money for today is something that is called the three-legged stool of retirement. Now, some of you have maybe heard of this, some of you haven't, but if we go back, so right now it's 2018, if we go back 2 generations, we run into a generation that this is what they counted on for retirement. They had a company pension, they had Social Security, and then really just those 2 alone, if they worked for a company for 30, 35 years, and they had a pension, they also would have Social Security, which would then, pay them from the government. They had the payment from the company, and a lot of the time that's all they needed to retire, and that alone would pay them more than they made while they were working. And then if they had saved money, it's just what they call gravy, I guess you could say. That would just be extra. But then you think about it, that generation, their parents lived through the Great Depression. And so they were really good savers because they had seen that, and they had that savers mentality. So for example, my grandfather worked for the same company for 40 years, had a company pension that replaced the income he was making while he was working, got Social Security on top of that. They were making more money just from those 2 in retirement than they did while he was working, but then they were just crazy savers to the point where they wrote out a check to build their dream home. But then what's funny is we go 1 generation down, and if people back then didn't have the real world rules of money, and they didn't have places they were learning about money, the only way we learn is what's passed down from our parents. And so what's passed down from our parents, good example or bad example, if that's what we have, that's what we have. And so if somebody from that generation had a pension, had Social Security, and they were good savers, and their kids don't study finance, they're just going to pass that down to their kids. Their kids think that they're going to have the same thing. Well, that generation's kids, some people call it the golden generation, some people call it the greatest generation, they pass down to the baby boomers that mentality of the three-legged stool of retirement: Social Security, company pensions, and personal savings. But now we look at the baby boomers who were born from 1946 to 1964. That the oldest baby boomer is just turned 72 years old this year. How many 50, 60, 70-year-olds that are approaching retirement, the baby boom generation, have a company pension still? Some of them still do, some of them don't. What about Social Security? The average Social Security check last year paid out was less than $2,000. So if someone didn't have a pension and they were poor savers and they're getting $2,000 or less per month, can they live on that? And then if they were poor savers, I mean, it just gets scary. Well, what happens if Social Security, as we all know, might as well be called social insecurity right now? And so that leg, as the picture shows, is kind of breaking, and company pensions are broken and disappearing and almost non-existent, and now there's personal savings. And so you look at what Social Security and pensions were paying people. I met with a client just the other day. If they had no pension, no Social Security, and they retired today, it would pay them like a few $100s. Their savings would. And so it's focusing on, okay, how am I doing in each of these? What do I have? What am I doing? How's my three-legged stool? Because today it's really a one-legged stool that needs that focus. And that's our real-world rule of money for today, is focusing on saving.